This is the Archangel 2210 here to give you kind of a rant about Hollywood and fairy tales. Now, I'm a huge fan of fairy tales, but when people think fairy tales, they think of the animated classic Disney films. But when I say fairy tales, I mean the classic Grimm's original versions that were actually written years ago. And you could buy them at your local Barnes& and Noble for about $20, the complete works of the Brothers Grimm, shameless plug. And it has all the fairy tales, like the real true version, and they have well over 200 fairy tales, I believe like 211. It's a great read, and it's far different from the Hollywood portrayal that has been done. Now, I understand for animated films, you have to dilute them uh, a lot, because you can't have the original content because too scary images, a story that will go over their head. You have to um, make it fun, fancy, and make it, lighthearted. Now, but the reason why I'm talking about this now is because, they're doing a lot of like modern fairy tales, that they're doing in Hollywood nowadays. They're doing Red Riding Hood, which is coming out, and they're doing a modern interpretation of Beauty and the Beast, which is Beastly. And I also heard that they're doing a another version of Snow White, and Julia Roberts supposedly is going to play the evil queen. Um, Now I don't mind if they do a classic fairy tale and they go back to like the gritty, dark version when they do it in a movie, but uh, I'm gonna talk about Beastly for like a quick minute. I'm gonna try not to go too long about it. But I'm not crazy about the whole Twilight feel that they're putting on in Beastly and in Red Riding Hood. That whole romance, teenage bopper thing. I don't know. It's just, first of all, in Beastly, the guy doesn't look ugly enough. He just looks like he had a wild party, he passed out, and he woke up with a whole bunch of tattoos. He does not look ugly. I feel like they could have really gone for it, but they went for the Twilight route of making him ugly but commercial ugly. You know, which, since it is a movie, that they want to still make him look like himself, which is like, and they gave him like these swirly tree designs and everything. It's like, I don't know. It's just, I'm just tired of teen modern. I just kind of don't like it when they put fairy tales and they try to put in the modern day, like when they did the Cinderella story with Hilary Duff and Selena Gomez. That both of them weren't that great, and then they did the Sydney White thing with Amanda Mines, and they made them both comedies. I was, boy. I'm not a huge fan of when they make them really. I'm sure some people it got a quick laugh out of it, and it wasn't a terrible movie. I'm not saying they were absolutely horrific. I was just kind of like, I really like the original source material. I really would have liked if they paid the original source material for some respect, because fairy tales and comic books, in my opinion, they don't get the initial respect that they deserve whenever they're interpreted into an actual film of some kind. They kind of say, "Oh, okay, that's how it is, but we're gonna do our own thing because we want to just cash in the bucks," and that's fine. But uh, take okay, take Cinderella for example. 9 times out of 10, when people say the word Cinderella, they automatically think, okay, fairy godmother, glass slippers, stroke of midnight, the ugly stepsisters, and and the pumpkin ride and everything, and that's what people think about when they think of Cinderella. That's not in the original book. That's in the Disney version. So that's what the miscommunication is. In the original version, it was a lot more poetic and a lot more. It just had more heart in it, in my opinion. Because not that the Disney version wasn't bad, it was good in itself as a separate thing. Um, But the original version, it had it where, first of all, her shoes was actually gold. It wasn't glass, which actually is a little more practical than glass. I don't know how anyone could walk around in glass shoes. I don't care how delicate you have, what kind of feet you have. And in the ways in the book, her fairy godmother was in fact her dead mother, who I believe was buried under the tree that she would always sit under, and that's where the dress came from. It fell from the leaves, and I felt like that was a lot more touching than just the fairy godmother swooping in and giving her a magical thing. Um, like, again, no offense to Disney. I'm not bashing Disney. This is not a rant against Disney. So I'm not bashing the completely. I like the classic Disney films. I like the classic animation and everything. But when it comes to a live action film that they do in Hollywood, I believe that they should kind of, pay a little homage to the original interpretation. And for Cinderella, the closest one that we've had, it's they still strayed a little bit and put a little bit of the cartoon in there, was Ever After, starring Drew Barrymore. It is very romantic and yada yada. It's but it's the closest interpretation of the film. Now for Snow White, which is my all-time favorite fairy tales, in my opinion, there was one film that got it right. Like the tone, the feel of the actual book. And that was Snow White, A Tale of Terror. That had Sigourney Weaver playing the evil queen. And it wasn't that she was evil in the very beginning. They had it where she was a woman who married this man who had a daughter, and she was trying to be kind at first. She was trying to get this family together, but this slow descent into madness and depression, and you really get into her mind of why she's doing all this and why she hates Snow White, who is not, that's not her name in the story. They named her something else that I can't remember. She had a different name, just like in Ever After, her name was Danielle. Which is fine if they want to do a departure, because you don't want to because Snow White is, it really doesn't feel like a real name. Now, I kind of feel like if they do fairy tales, in my opinion, I don't know if they ever can be done in the true version. Like, of course, it's not going to be done to the book to a T. Things are going to be changed, because different writers and producers, and that's fine. But as long as it has the overall tone of the original book, such as Snow White, A Tale of Terror, and, Ever After, A Cinderella Story with Drew Barrymore, those two films, in my opinion, they were the two that captured the essence of the story that they were trying to portray. From what I've seen from the trailer of Red Riding Hood, it seemed like an okay film. Imagery-wise, it seemed really good, with the long red cloak flowing in the wind against the snow, and her herself. But the fact that they had it where it was like a werewolf, I could see why they did that, because it seems more menacingly, as if it'd be a werewolf. But that whole romantic thing where she has a romance with the wolf, and it's gonna be this Twilight type of feel to the film. I don't know, because I did not like Twilight. It was too melodramatic, teen romance stuff, and I can never relate to that stuff because it's not really realistic. Now, in my opinion, back to Beastly, you could tell with Beastly and Red Riding Hood, they were really trying to cash in on that Twilight train, which, okay, fine, you want to cash that in, fine, I'm not going to, ban the film. People don't want to see the film, that's seen Twilight, go right ahead. I'm not going to say don't watch the film, because if the people that like those films, you'll probably watch this. But if you're a true, fairy tale, you really like the original fairy tales, check out Snow White, A Tale of Terror, because that one is a really good one. I've seen it one time, and I was like, I gotta get it on DVD, and I really do. Now, I'll probably cut this down into two parts because I kind of want to say more, but we'll see in the future. I think that's all I gotta say for now, but I'll probably say a part two later on. Who knows? So this is me signing off.